Hi friends, and welcome back. I have another story for you today. This one is called The Princess and the Pig. Princess and the Pig, and it's by Jonathan Emmett and Polly Bernatene, and it's from Scholastic Books. Princess and the Pig, title page there. Jonathan says, for Caroline, who knows the sorts of things that happen all the while in books. And Polly says, for my friend Maria Alms and her love for books. It's a beautiful day today, so you can see the sun shining in our house here, and you probably might hear the birds. That's okay, I'm still going to read. Not that long ago, in a kingdom not far from here, a farmer was traveling home from the market with a cartload of straw. The farmer was so poor that he didn't have a horse and had to pull his own cart. In the back of the cart lay a tiny piglet. Nobody wanted to buy the piglet at the market, but the farmer had taken pity on it. I'll call you Pygmelia, he decided, as this seemed like a good name for a pig. Pygmella. It was a hot day, and the farmer stopped to rest in the shade of a great castle. Far, far above him on a high balcony, a queen was inspecting her new baby daughter. The queen was so rich that she had 7 nannies and didn't have to look after her own child. The queen picked the baby out of her cradle and held her at arm's length. I'll call it Priscilla, she decided, as this seemed like a good name for a princess. So we have Pygmella, the pig, and Priscilla, the princess. A moment later, a wet, squelching noise came from the baby's diaper, closely followed by an awful smell. Yuck! Shrieked the queen, dropping the baby and running off to find the royal nannies. She left so quickly that she didn't notice she had dropped the baby over the edge of the balcony. Oh no! What do you think? See, if you look closer, do you think she's going to fall on the ground? There's that cart there. I hope she falls on the cart. That's a long drop. So down, down, down went the baby. There she is, falling down into the farmer's cart. And up, up, up went the pig into the princess' castle. So if you look at the cart only has one wheel, which almost makes it like a, sorry, it's hard to see with this light, which almost looks like a seesaw. So as you know, if you put weight down on one side of the seesaw, the other side of the seesaw goes up. So if you were coming down really, really, really far from high up, that force would bring the other person on the other side of the seesaw all the way up. When the queen returned and found the piglet lying where the baby should have been, she let out an even louder shriek and fainted into the nanny's arms. The king thought he knew what had happened. A bad fairy has done this, he explained. The fairy wasn't invited to the princess' christening, so she's turned the baby into a piglet to get her revenge. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books. Well, that story sounds rather familiar. And look at the book he's got. Sleeping Beauty. In Sleeping Beauty, that same thing happens. There's a woman that isn't invited, a fairy that isn't invited, Maleficent, and she puts everyone to sleep. And, well, she doesn't put everybody to sleep, but she causes the girl to prick her finger, and she wants her to, not make it, but the fairies, the good fairies, say that she will fall into a sleep, as will everybody else. So that's where that's coming from. Meanwhile, the farmer had returned home and was surprised to discover a baby girl lying where the piglet should have been. The farmer's wife thought she knew what had happened. A good fairy has done this, she explained. The fairy knew how poor and honest we are and how badly we wanted a child, so she turned the piglet into a baby. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books. She's got the book Thumbelina. I'm not as familiar with that story, so you'll have to look that one up. but I guess it kind of resembles what she just said. And so without a second thought, the baby became Pigmella, the farmer's daughter. And the piglet became Priscilla, the royal princess. It wasn't long before Pigmella was able to eat, walk, and get dressed all by herself, and the farmer and his wife soon forgot that she had ever been a pig. Things were not so easy for Priscilla, but the king and queen never let anyone forget that she was really a princess. As Pigmella grew older, she grew smarter and beautiful and was admired by everyone she met. Admired is when you really like someone and you're like, oh, wow, that's really great that you did that. That's really special. I admire you. I think you're great. As Priscilla grew older, she grew not so smart and not so beautiful and was avoided by everyone she met. Oh, poor Prince Priscilla. Then one day, the farmer's wife overheard some of the castle servants talking about the princess who had turned into a pig. It's just like what happened to Pigmella, she told her husband, only the other way around. The farmer soon guessed what had happened. The princess and the pig must have swapped places somehow, he explained. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books. And he's got a book in his hand called The Prince and the Pauper. And in The Prince and the Pauper, there's a pauper who is like one of the subjects of the kingdom, like a peasant, and the prince switch places because they look a lot alike. The one doesn't want to be prince anymore, and the one wants to be prince, so they kind of switch places. The poor farmer and his wife were very unhappy. They loved Pigmella, but they knew they must return her to her rightful home. Pigmella was also unhappy. She loved the farmer and his wife and did not want to live with anyone else. But they were an honest family, so the next day they all went to the castle to see the king and queen. The king and queen listened to the farmer's story. But they didn't believe it. What nonsense, cried the queen. Ridiculous, laughed the king. This girl may be smart and beautiful, but she does not look or speak like a real princess. Well, isn't that silly? Do you think the Priscilla the pig speaks like a real princess and acts like a princess? The queen thought she knew what was happening. It's a trick, she declared. This girl is just a farmer's daughter pretending to be a princess so that she can marry a prince. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books. And here's another book reference. Puss in Boots. And in Puss in Boots, if you're familiar with Puss in Boots, he pretends to be someone who he's not to get to gain favor for his master, who actually is just a regular person and says he has a kingdom and everything. So there's a lot of books in this book. And so Pigmella returned home with the farmer and his wife, where she married a young shepherd and lived happily ever after, and never once wished that she'd been a princess. And Priscilla also got married to a handsome prince, although he had to be talked into it. Priscilla was changed into a pig by a bad fairy, the king explained. But once you kiss her, the spell will be broken, and she will turn back into a beautiful princess. Oh, that was the queen, sorry. Once you kiss her, the spell will be broken, and she will be turned back into a beautiful princess. And they both said, it's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books, they assured him, and they had another book, The Frog Prince. And if you know the story of the Frog Prince, that's exactly what happened. The frog is actually a prince, and the princess gives him a kiss. And he turns back into a prince, and everybody lives happily ever after. But unfortunately for the prince, it's not the sort of thing that happens in this particular book. And that is the end of our story. So I really like that story. I don't know about you. But I like the fact that they kept saying that's the kind of thing that happens in books, and they each had like different fairy tales and books to reference. I thought that was good. So if you liked the stories that they talked about, seek them out and read them because they're really great stories. I hope you enjoyed today's story, and I'll see you next time, okay? Bye-bye.